Get Pucked. Welcome to Get Pucked. Here with you today, again, as always, is Vito, Dave, myself, Matt, and like always, let's just dive right into it, boys. So, Jeff Gorton finally had his presser, right? Finally, a nice little meet and greet. He took the time. He started it off in French, which I thought was a nice touch. Said a lot of interesting things. So, what was it? First off, how did you feel about it? Like, what was your kind of take? Like when he was answering it, how did you think like he felt intimidated? Did you think he completely bombed it, or did he completely own it? Like, what was your really feeling about it? And then what was like perhaps maybe the one thing that he mentioned that like you were really it's sticking out in your mind, and like that really was the thing that you were kind of hoping that perhaps he would say? Vito, go ahead, start us off.
So I find he handled himself quite well. I appreciated the fact that he opened it up in French. I mean, yeah, he obviously read it a couple times before, but like, who cares? I mean, some media outlets gave him a hard time, and I mean, I think Frankie Gagnon gave him a hard time too, or cracked some joke that people took really bad.
He didn't, right?
Do you know what he said? Yes, I heard what he said, but if you'd want to repeat it, go for it, or at least paraphrase it,
I think the paraphrase was he was saying, I think the fans and everybody will have the patience with you to learn French, but they don't necessarily have the patience with the team. Like, he's got to be able to do something to change the team sooner rather than later. It had nothing to do with him speaking French.
Well, I agree, right? So, like, I mean, I didn't find it that bad, and that's why, like, on Twitter, I didn't add fuel to the fire. I didn't even entertain it. I just moved on from it.
Yeah.
But I find he handled himself well. He said certain words in French as an American that were actually not that bad. He didn't enunciate it, like, so he did well for an American who's trying. He cracked some jokes. He was very light. You saw that they were rephrasing or rewording the same questions over and over differently to try to get something from him, and he didn't budge. He stayed the same. He was status quo on that, and his message got across clearly, in my opinion. But they tried, and I guess that's their job to do so. But the thing that bothered me is there was a lot of focus on the whole language thing. And I mean, give the guy a break. Let him come in.
What's the thing that he said? Sorry, what was the thing that you heard him say? What did he answer? What specifically did he say that you remember from it that you're like, yes. That
they're going to find a general manager. They're going to do it by committee. And when they do find it, they're going to find somebody that caters to the Montreal market. He basically said that. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what stood out to me. So, yeah, some people are against it, but I'm good with that. Like, okay, fine, we get it. Montreal's a special market; you got to cater to it. And he did say that. He didn't come out and said, "Hey, this is going to be my team. This is the way it's going to go. We're going to best candidate available." Even though we want to do that, I'm going to do this while considering the Montreal market, and specifically, we're going to look out of the box. We're going to think out of the box for this.
So that was one of the things I had written down. I thought maybe somebody was going to bring that up, but that's cool. Yes, the out of the box for the GM, the non-conventional potential pick, I think was a really big thing that he said. Dave, what did you say? What did you catch?
I like the overall press conference. I think he touched on everything that he needed to touch on. I think he spoke very well, and he did pretty much the exact press conference a PR guy could draw up the perfect way. Right. There are three things that stuck out to me. One is the out of the box candidate. I think that was a sly little message saying, I see your list of Mathieu Darche and Daniel Briere, and don't expect them. I think the out of the box, we heard the name Ken Hughes a little bit this week on Twitter, Darren Dreger, Elliot Friedman dropping that there. The player agent type of guy, I think that, or even on the women's side. I think there's a possibility here for the Canadiens to take a real leap and to get ahead of the curve and to bring in a woman as a general manager. And I think that that's real potential. And I think that's something that's going to be given strong consideration. I'm not going to say it's going to happen. And maybe the AGM, the assistant general manager, will end up being a woman. But I think that there's a possibility here. And the Canadians love this type of stuff. And they're very in tune with it. And I think that it would be well received by this fan base on top more than anything. And so that's something out of the box. That's the two things that stuck with me is the maybe it's a player agent instead of all these other, executive type guys, or someone from the women's side. The other thing that stuck out to me is his talk of the analytics. He said he's going to put an analytics team together, which is something that I think this market needs. I was at the Rocket games this week, and we spoke. We had an in studio, in the booth. Alex Lepore, who runs the Dallas Stars' analytics. He's an analytics coordinator. He's from Montreal. He's a scout here for the Texas Stars. And he spoke about it. He said Montreal, they just never seemed interested in analytics. So that to me, it really, really stuck out to me. And it seems to be a step in the right direction. And he even said, like, it's not everything, but it's a tool that needs to be used. And I think that here, very famously, it was not used enough.
But that's the key thing that you said, Dave, right? It's a tool that needs to be used. I don't believe that a team should base their entire roster or any decision they make 100% on that. If they're going to use it as a tool to help them and, it's part of the game. Like, I know we're in an analytics world to a certain degree, but it can't be the sole reason why you go and pick up a player or why you trade away a player.
No, that's absolutely fair. And I think that we've seen the model in Arizona. It didn't work out, right? And Toronto even, you realize that you need a mix of everything, right?
That's right.
So I think that Jeff Molson and Jeff Gorton are smart enough to understand that it's a tool and they're going to use it at that. And the third one to me was the transparency issue, saying that, look, I'm as transparent guy. I'm going to be as transparent as possible with the fans. I thought that means a lot, I think, to this fan base who, had about 9 years of mafia-like secrecy from Marc Bergevin and the moves, which was kind of a novel approach at the beginning, but got frustrated when you didn't actually see any results on the ice. Like, if you want to be secretive behind the scenes, the plan has to be
got to produce
eventually. And after 9 years, there never really was a plan. So that kind of frustrated me. So those 3 points, I think, were key for me on the press.
I got to agree 100% with the transparency comment. I had that written down as well as something that I thought was really interesting. Of course, it's all well in theory. They have to keep their word. They actually have to be transparent. They have to actually show something. Granted, they don't have to make leaps and bounds because, like you just said, under the Bergevin regime, it was harder to get information out of the Montreal Canadiens than it would be to get it from, like, the Secret Service or the CIA in the States, right? Like, it was incredible. Nobody knew nothing at any given time. With
you got to give them credit for that.
It was great. Like Dave said, man. Like Dave said, it was cool. There was a time and place for it. It was like, yep, no one's going to know anything about us, and that's cool. But at the same time, it's like at one point or another, you start asking questions after year of failure. You're like, where are we heading? What's happening in the organization? What are they seeing? What are they looking for? And it was tight-lipped all the time. So it would be refreshing to see. I 100% agree. And on that topic of kind of like sort of being open, I mean, he said he was still relatively just taking in the team and just starting off, which was what he answered to a lot of guys in the presser about how, like, give him time, give him patience. He did not waste a lot of time making his first move. So a couple days ago, or perhaps even yesterday, I can't recall at this point, I think it was 2 days ago, he brought in a young defenseman who just went on the waiver wire from Los Angeles, Kale Clague. What do you guys think?
Well,
Dave.
I like the move. I mean, look, it's going to be another, for now, what it is, it's a depth move. It's another, for all intents and purposes, another Davis Drewski. It's another, it's a guy to add to the Brett Kulak, a guy to add to the depth chart. But the thing with Kale Clague, see, right off the bat, I could tell you right off the bat,
is that the problem, Dave?
Already, because it's a tongue twister. Every time you're going to mention him on air or anything, it doesn't make sense. You want to say Kyle because it just doesn't flow. It doesn't flow. Kale is with a C. What's Kale with a K? It doesn't make any sense. Anyways, but he's a guy this guy was drafted before Adam Fox. This guy was drafted before Victor Mete.
A lot of potential, man. A lot of potential.
There. He was drafted to be a top 4 guy in the NHL. He put up points with the Ontario Reign of the AHL. He put up points at junior. He played with
Duchamp, five points in 11 games so far this season, I believe that he played.
Yeah,
he's got. I think he leads the team, the Montreal Canadiens in power play points.
Yes, he does.
But we spoke with Dennis Bernstein on Friday, right? And Dennis Bernstein was quick to say, hold your horses. He had the opportunity here to step in Drew Doughty's absence in LA, and he never really took the reins. He's an offensive guy. He's a good puck mover without being offensive.
So that's what I heard. Like, somebody mentioned it. Like, if you want to put him in where would you slot him, or who would you compare him to? It's on Montreal. Think of the Sami Niku claim, but Sami Niku's got like a better shot, but Clagie's better on transition.
Right. So exactly. So someone said on the power.
Can either of them play defense? Sorry.
Well, That's another question. That's something to be seen. I can't say that I've ever seen him really play. So
neither have I.
Except maybe in a World Junior. And mistakenly, hey, there he is, and I didn't notice him too much. But other than that, I mean, I think it's a guy who has potential, and these are the exact type of hires and the exact type of moves that the Canadians should be going to get. Taking a risk on somebody, taking a flyer on somebody. It doesn't hurt. It's a waiver claim. Yes, they get moved back to the end of the waiver wire. Who cares, man? They got a guy. You can maybe slot him in. Maybe he doesn't pan out. Oh, well.
But you know what? You saw it. When he got put on waivers, almost immediately everybody's like, okay, Montreal is going to end up picking up this guy.
But to be fair, anytime anyone's put on waivers, everyone says Montreal's going to pick up this guy.
But it was just, you could have seen that there was a need with Montreal with all the injuries and people not playing. Yeah, and so you're like, if anybody's going to put a claim on this, it's likely going to be Montreal because this team's decimated.
But a lot of people were also saying that, like, oh, yes, there's a potential fit in Montreal, but Norlinder is here and he's not playing. Why wouldn't they just play Norlinder? What's happening? And that begs the question, what are they doing with Norlinder? Why is he not playing? And is he not better suited to go back to Sweden? What do you think about that, Vito? Like, why? What is he doing?
Listen, I said it, like, they're not playing him. They're playing minimal minutes. He's not an OT. They're not like, again, this comes back to what I said. Ducharme is not playing the players to their strengths. Those kids are not being played to their strengths. So Norlinder's another guy. You have him there. You brought him in. You signed him to a 3-year entry-level contract. Fucking play him. This isn't one of those situations where you're looking and saying, yeah, we're trying to get as many points as we possibly can to get a spot in the playoffs. They're not making the playoffs, so play your kids. But on the flip side, you gotta also want to increase the value of your veterans if you're gonna start trying to move them. So I get that, but it doesn't look like Ducharme's even doing that. Like I don't. And I keep coming back to this.
Okay, well,
I don't know what
Pump
the
fuck
Ducharme is doing anymore.
Pump the brakes. When it comes to stealing my thunder for my next question. Would you send Norlinder back to Sweden?
100%. If you're not going to play him,
park that shit. Dave, would you play? Would you find a way to keep him here or being around the team? Let's say he doesn't play more. Let's say it's status quo. He continues a couple minutes here or there, or he's a 7th guy. Would you keep him in that position to learn or to be around the team or whatever the pros potentially might be? Or would you send him back to Sweden?
So if it's status quo and it's exactly how Dom Ducharme was playing him right now, he should check his email because he probably has an e-ticket in there back to Sweden already, because it's absolutely ridiculous the way he's playing him. And I mean, Vito's right. The way he's playing anybody, the way he's playing Caulfield, the way he's playing Romano.
Don't steal my thought. Okay, you guys want to jump to the next question? Fine, let's jump to the next question.
I will say this. Matt. Time out. I would keep Norlinder if you're telling me that we're going to send Ducharme to Sweden and just keep him there.
Okay, enough with you. Fine. You are now, congratulations, the head coach of the Montreal Canadiens, gentlemen. However, the small catch is your name is Dominique Ducharme. Okay? You are Dom Ducharme. Explain to me what it is you're thinking about not giving really any ice time to any of the kids. Vito, go, Dom. Tell me why. Why aren't you playing Caulfield? Why aren't you playing Norlinder?
I'm a piece of shit, and I was told from upper management. Okay. I was told from upper management to play the veterans so that I could increase the value of them, so that I can maximize the trade value come trade deadline.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
Other than that, there's no way. He's trying to pry wins, or he tries to get wins so that maybe he does get another job next year if he does happen to get fired, which I do think he's going to get fired at the end of the season.
Okay, a little bit more realistic, but let's hold on that second. Dom Ducharme number 2. Explain to me your philosophy as to why you're not playing any of the kids really, and you're putting Sherratt in as 3 minutes in an overtime.
Because I have a boring system that favors accountability and safe play that's been around this organization since Claude Julien took over, and I'm the same way. And I like the guys. I like Sherratt circling the net in overtime, trying to wrap it around. I like that a lot. I like him on the power play where he kind of just sits there and kind of maybe moves the puck. Hey, look, he has 4 goals this year or 5 goals. Look, it's working. And that's why I don't trust Cole Caulfield. I don't trust Matthias Norlinder. Alex Romanov, fine. I trusted him yesterday, but not on the power play. That's too much.
Or
not an OT either. It would seem.
No,
It would seem like not. I thought you were a young man's coach, Dom. I thought you were the modern day coach. Why is it that you're continuing to perpetuate the same old system that has been proven to not work for so long in this organization?
Because I'm stubborn. That's how I got my job. I was talking to Marc Bergevin, and I ran it this way. I got to the Stanley Cup final, and now this is the sword I'm going to die on. And I'm going to die on it pretty quickly, but I'm going to die on it.
Okay. Final thoughts, Dom, number one?
I've been coaching like this for 18 years. It worked sometimes. I might as well continue keeping it working this way. But the other thing,
I want to point out, Jack Todd
Dom too.
had actually a great point today. And I don't say this often. I like Jack Todd.
I can't believe you just said that once, but okay.
I like Jack Todd a lot, actually. A lot of people don't like him, and he has beef with almost everybody I know, but I don't mind him. I think he's a good writer. And he had a good point. Someone pointed out, well, why does Dom Ducharme, he was a head coach in Team Canada. How come it worked out there? And how come he was so good in the Q? It's like, because that's all he had was young players. So he had to play them all. And that's the point. That's the whole point, is that when he's given these crutches, I would say, these reliable veteran guys, he uses them way too much and doesn't give a chance to the young guys.
Could he be scared?
Nuts.
Could he be scared to piss off the veterans?
No, I don't think. Well, I mean, if he is, then he definitely should.
Okay,
all right. Enter the conversation, Dom Ducharme number 3 quickly, and I'll tell you why. Just very briefly. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I actually dyed it, but anyways, hold on. The whole thing that I would say is that I see the way the team is going. I see that it's basically an impossibility of getting to the playoffs. I don't want to put the additional pressure on my young guys that are going to go out there and try to shoulder all of this immense amount of pressure and ultimately come up short, which might cripple them in their development in the future. I'd rather it fall on the vets and we continue to lose and let it be the veterans' fault. That way I've sheltered my youth.
I'm sorry. Maybe there would be some merit to what you said if Norlinder didn't play 5 minutes in like a period and a half.
Okay.
All right. So that's one. Now,
that's what he tells himself when he looks in the mirror, but that's not the real reason. Okay, that's what he
honestly, think about it this way. Okay?
Honestly, I felt dirty saying it. I just want to say that.
Okay, but hold on a second.
Yeah.
When we used to watch Julien coach and Terry, we knew exactly what they were doing. And often we complained, dump and chase, boring hockey, blah, blah, blah. I'm still struggling to figure out Ducharme's system. And it looks like the players are struggling to figure out the Ducharme system. So it makes me wonder, often when he was Julien's assistant coach, you saw sometimes that people would say, okay, the Habs were playing with pace, they're playing fast, and we all assumed that this was Dominic Ducharme's system. And then all of a sudden, Claude Julien would revert back to his old ways, and we'd say, why the heck is Julien reverting back to his system? Well, I think now we know why. We know why, because Ducharme didn't have a system, and I think Julien realized that. And that's my opinion. I'm not speaking for you guys. I'm speaking from my opinion because I'm still watching these games, and I can't figure out what is Ducharme's system. What's he doing?
It's puzzling.
Is it a man-on-man? Is it a dump and chase? Is it are they boxing it out on the PK? Are they doing it I don't know. I don't know what their formations are. It's so fucking confusing. It's all over the place and nowhere at the same time.
Yeah. To be honest, Matt, what you said makes the most sense in the sense that, like, all right, there's value in there, I guess, a little bit. There's a bit of honor in trying to protect the young players. But this is the NHL, man. Like, come on, get out of time.
I agree.
You're gonna play 82 games like that. Like,
I agree.
Montreal scored on the power play yesterday, and it was one of the best power plays they had this season. It wasn't like, oh my god, great, but it was one of their better power plays they had this season. And guess who was on the ice? You had Paling on the ice, you had Caulfield on the ice, you had Suzuki on the ice. They scored. They scored.
He didn't get off. He didn't.
Well, regardless, another power play comes on in a 5-on-3. You don't put Caulfield, you put Weidman in, and they're passing back. Weidman and Hoffman pass like 6 times back and forth between each other. Somebody rip a shot. Put your best shooters there.
Listen, trying to understand the power play has been an exercise in futility for years.
But
it's not even just this system.
But this is a 5-on-3. Put your best shooters. This is not. You're at the point on the season. You're out of the playoffs. You want the kids to play? You have them in the team? Let them go learn this.
You would assume that given it is very, very likely a lost season, you would try to up the time for the younger guys to get reps in there, to really get comfortable, to see what it's like, to mix them a little bit more with veterans, and then to get a little bit wild and creative. You would assume. But there's got to be a reason why he's not doing it. None that we're going to at least agree with. But it's too maddening that every other person out there can look at it and say, how do you not have Caulfield and Hoffman on the same power play? How do you not try Romanov? How do you not put Norlinder there when that's his bread and butter? It's like, it's got to be purposeful because it's too simple. Obvious to do for him not to do.
For me, it's very simple. For Norlinder, I'll talk about him. Don't go pick up other defensemen. There's no point. Like, I mean, okay, you picked up Clague, fine, I get it. It was because of the injuries, and that's a good enough reason. But doesn't mean that Clague surpasses Norlinder. Let him play. Let him learn. You have him here. You're burning a year of his entry-level contract. Then play him. Not 4 or 5 minutes. Let him play and let him learn. Let him make his mistakes. It's not like he's going to, they're going to save the year now at this point. Caulfield, you brought him back up. You called him back from Laval because he was doing well in Laval. Like now he's got 5 points in his last 6 games. So that
he is playing well. Yeah.
He is playing well. Yesterday was probably one of his most engaging games that he's had in a while. Then play him. Put him in the position.
Look at his time. Look at his time, though. Yeah. 5 points in 6 games. Yeah.
Play him to his strength and let him go at it. Let him build that on that momentum and fine. Romanov, he's been playing great. He played 24 minutes last night, but then you don't play him in the OT. Don't on one hand reward, but then penalize for something else.
You wonder how long this is going to go on before Jeff Gorton kind of steps in and says, maybe Dom, maybe you should do this maybe a little suggestion here or there to move things along. Because how you can watch this team develop the way it's doing. We talk all the time about player development here in Montreal and how it hasn't worked for all these years. Yeah. And then you see things like this. It's like, why? What is happening? What's going on? It's maddening. And, it just seems, even in the Stanley Cup run, there's like, why isn't this guy playing? There's always these questions around, it seems. And it's just like, why can't they get it right? And you wonder why if a hockey guy like Jeff Gorton's going to come in and, maybe make a little change here or there or suggest a few changes. Obviously, he's not the head coach. Obviously, he gave his seal of approval for Deschamps for the rest of the year because there's no point in bringing
there wouldn't be. Yeah, I agree.
So there's no point to get another coach at this point. So just let him finish it out. Let him write it out. And then at the end of the year, tell him, here, you're owed another $1.7 million for another 2 years. Take your money and go home.
Let him dig his own grave, I think is the expression.
He's already dug it.
Well, all right, let him go. Let him go jump in now that it's dug. But okay, I want to move on to this because I think this is also going to take a little bit of time to discuss. Hypothetically, let's suggest that there was 2 scenarios that you could look at in terms of going forward with the team. Would you rebuild this team, keeping very, very few key pieces and starting to build outwards, like through the draft and stuff, taking several years to accomplish? Or do you believe enough in really the true core of this team and you would do not a retool, but a mini rebuild? It would still take a few years, but not as much as a massive rebuild. And would you potentially do that instead? Where do you feel the team is at? Do they actually possess a good enough core that you can sort of do a miniature rebuild around them and be successful? Or does this really need to be scraped as low as it can go and rebuild from the ground floor up? Dave, start us off.
I think a full rebuild is necessary. And that doesn't mean not going to acquire key pieces that could be good now. But I think you look at this core. Who's their core? Their core is Nick Suzuki. Is he a top-line center? The jury's still out for me. I know everybody's bullish on him. I don't believe that he is. I still, to this day, he has not proven that he is. You have Cole Caulfield. Has he proven he's taken a step back? Maybe it's because he's played well. But is he this 40-goal scorer that everyone thought he was going to be? No, he's not. Then you got Norlinder playing 8 minutes.
Not at 8 minutes. I was specific about that. He's got to be playing to his strengths. Okay.
But even if he plays longer, Norlinder, even if he plays 20 minutes, we don't even know what he is yet because he's not getting those minutes. So we don't even know what he is. And even Romanov has his setbacks. He's playing better now. He's playing well. He looks like he's going to be a guy that could be part of that core. And that's it. That's their core. There's nobody else. You look at everybody else. I mean, I'm sorry, but they're disposable. They're not people I would build around. Maybe Josh Anderson, I would.
Well, he's got 7 years with us, right? So he's like
just
core by default.
because of that contract, and also because he's a power forward that the Canadians have needed for years and years and years and years and years. So just keep him until maybe you can replace him in the future. But for he that to me are like the 5-6 players that are keepable. Everybody else, it's question marks. And even those players are question marks. So I think you need to do a rebuild and you need to ship out as many people as you can. Now, it's going to be very, very difficult. These contracts are huge. It's not going to be easy to just, hey, Carey Price to Edmonton.
No. But let's pretend for the sake of this argument, you are able to offload at a reasonable returns back. Let's not say you're going to trade off everybody off the books and you're pulling back in great top 5 picks, for years to come. Like a reasonable rebuild, let's suggest it's going to take anywhere between 4 to 6 years to accomplish what you need to do versus a mini rebuild, which is more like 2 to 3.
I'm all for the 4 to 5.
All right,
I'm all for the 4 to 5. You don't have enough players in your pipeline. The Rafael, Harvey Pinard, those players, even Ylonen, they're not.
Yeah, you don't have superstars there.
They're guys who could be good pieces, but they're not people you build around. You need at least 3 to 4 more foundational players to build around that are going to be superstars or at least very good hockey players.
I heard
you need them, and the only way to do that is to rebuild, is to get pieces, acquisitions. And I'm not saying you have to suck and draft. You could trade these players for prospects that are going to come here and be those guys. Like Nick Suzuki, he wasn't drafted. They didn't have to suck for a whole year to get Nick Suzuki. They dealt max bet trading and got Nick Suzuki. Do a deal like that. That's fine. I don't need the traditional finish in last place for the next 5 years. I don't mean that. I mean you have to sacrifice winning. If you win along the way, that's fine. But you got to sacrifice that in terms of building, and that you need a full rebuild. Get rid of everybody that you can, including some of your core. I'd be open to it.
Vito, how do you feel about that?
We tried the retooling, as they called it. So a mini rebuild, as you called it, we tried it.
It's a little bit deeper than that. I just want to specify. I'm not talking retooling because that's like plug and play 1 or 2 guys. I'm talking you're going to need to replace the vast majority, but like you still keep like a guy like Anderson, it would be a fixture in a mini rebuild. There's no doubt about it. Even guys, for example, like Toffoli would probably be in your mini rebuild team. The other version is these guys, if you can, get rid of them.
Okay, so if we're going to start, we're at the point now where we need to build a team or rebuild a team that's not only good for a couple of years or can give us another Stanley Cup run. We need a good 10 years. I want it to be where it's a situation like Tampa Bay. They just bring in somebody that not many people know about. It's like, Radish came in and he did something. Scored a nice goal. He contributed to the team, and you need that kind of depth. That you can bring in these players that not the average person is going to know, and they can do something. So Montreal needs to go through a rebuild, in my opinion, but doesn't mean they have to get rid of absolutely everybody. There are pieces like Anderson that they can keep. You're just not going to go on a blank slate and have just a bunch of kids. Because then if you have a bunch of kids, that 4 to 6 years is looking more like 7, 8 years, because some of them is going to take a little bit more time. Some of them will be ready to go. But yes, I hate to say it. I really do. You guys see him. You see him. He's on my wall. Carey Price is a factor in all of this. If you're going to go the rebuild, unfortunately, even for him, if he wants a chance to win a Stanley Cup, Montreal will have to find a way where they're going to retain about $3 million of his contract and try to move and get him around that $6.5, $7.5 million that makes him enticing, and to get him somewhere around there. Gallagher's another player. I know a lot of fans love Gallagher, heart and soul team, but there are teams that may be willing to take him if there's some salary retained as well. Get some return like Dave mentioned, and that's how you're going to rebuild. Get some players that, maybe they've been developing 1 or 2 years with another team, and they're not quite ready, but they're there. They could contribute. They're going to have to go that route, because the one thing is, if we do get rid of absolutely everybody and you have no veteran presence whatsoever, then you're going to be like the Ottawa Senators in a sense, where we look and say they have nice pieces, great pieces going forward, but they still can't figure it out. And with all the talent pool and all the prospects that they have, you'd think, okay, every year they're saying, Ottawa's going to be a strong team this year. They got the potential. We're still waiting for those players to blossom and come out of their shell. And I don't want to be that 100%. But yes, I do feel like you need to do a rebuild while still having certain players that are young enough, call them young veterans like a Josh Anderson, to help the path and help go things along. Now, that's also considering that they want to be part of that. I think if you're getting to the players that are like 31, 32, 33 and older, they may not want to be a part of that. The guys who are 25, 26, 27, and 28 may be like, okay, cool.
But how many of them are going to get a choice in the matter? You know, like some of the late guys, like a Carey Price is old enough, and he's quite obviously, everybody would know at that given point, if you are doing a full rebuild, he clearly can't be in the mix, so he would very much likely have to be on the move. I'll get to him in a second later on in another question there, but like some of these other guys, like you're talking like they have to be on board. No, they don't. You know what I mean? If you can't unload somebody, then they're here, and they're here until the contract's up, and they'll be a veteran, and they'll be good soldiers. I don't believe a player is going to be upset. You know, some people are going to be like, yeah, I didn't really sign up for this. You know, those that are slightly older that might, you know, be getting close to or in the beginning 30s. But like these other guys that are like 27, 26, 28. I mean,
remember, contracts are tough to move, but we've seen some creative situations where a third team gets involved and they get a pick to retain some salary.
Arizona.
You know what I mean? No, it's not only Arizona. Like there's teams out there that are offering.
Detroit's done it. Like,
yeah,
Detroit a bit. Yeah.
They say, here, give me a third or fourth round pick or whatever the heck it is, a second even. And Montreal's got a bunch of picks. We know that. And say, I'm going to also retain another $2 million of that salary. That team's we're going to retain $1 million of that salary. You retain 3, and all of a sudden, hey, the player got moved for something where every team benefits on something.
And not to harp on the past. Not to harp on the past, but that year where the Canadiens had all that cap space, that was the prime year to take on all these bad contracts for that year and move players and collect picks, and they did nothing. They just sat on it, and that's
they got Armia for Mason and whatever other product garbage they got.
That's true. That's true.
Ooh, Yoel Armia, great.
All right. 6%. Here, I got another thing for you guys. Here, I got another thing. Let's. You have to pick one of these two options I'm going to present to you. Okay? There's no, and you don't get time to think about it. We're going to do it very quick, very rapid fiery. I want like gut reactions. If you absolutely have to explain yourself, you can do it afterwards at the end if there was something there, but I'm going to press you to it. All right? There are two options. You will pick one of the two. Call it the lesser of the two evils, if you will. Not everyone's bad, hypothetically. I just want to take your take on things. We'll start with Dave. And again, I want quick answers. No lollygagging, all right?
What I'm best at.
All right. So, you have to choose between keeping Dom Ducharme as your head coach going forward, or you bring in Alain Vigneault.
Jesus Christ.
Answer.
I'll bring in
Alain Vigneault. Vito.
No question, Alain Vigneault. But that's a good one, Matt. You threw a curveball on that one.
You get to keep
choices.
You get to keep Brendan Gallagher going forward to the end of his career, or you trade Brendan Gallagher. His whole salary's off the books, but all you get in return is a second-round pick next year and a sixth-round pick the following year.
Trade Brendan Gallagher. Okay, I'm sorry, that contract is going to hurt. It's going to hurt eventually, and it's going to diminish.
I don't want to hear your excuses. Just answer. We'll talk about it after.
Man, I know there's going to be fans that are going to hate us, but yeah, you'd have to trade it if you're going on a rebuild.
For peanuts. Okay. You guys, cool. No problem.
Oh, no. I'm not saying the returns.
You have to choose the next GM. Your options are Patrick Roy or Danny Briere.
Danny Briere.
Patrick Roy.
Okay. I thought one of you would say it.
Give me the chaos and entertainment value.
Beautiful. Okay.
I think I just ruined my credibility.
To you are, and this is funny because you guys kind of mentioned it before, but are analytics an absolute necessity for an NHL team, or are they a nice to have?
Nice to have.
Nice to have.
Interesting.
I don't believe you should build.
I don't want to hear your thoughts right now. We'll get to all this in a second. Last one here. Last one.
Hit me.
You get to choose. We won't talk what the trade package will be or how it'll end up working out, but of the two teams that you're able to move Carey Price to, it would have to be between the Colorado Avalanche or the Edmonton Oilers. Who do you choose?
Colorado Avalanche.
Vito.
I brought this up. It's Colorado is the better fit.
Okay. Very good.
I said this in a tweet.
Now, well, maybe that's where I got the question from. So, which one of those things do you guys want to expand on a little bit more? I feel like there was some stuff there. Like, what do you think would be like, what the fuck?
Okay, first off, I don't even want to expand on Ducharme and Vigneault. Those were terrible choices. Terrible choices. Vigneault would cost $5 million. Jeff Molson's just going to dump more money on another coach that's a similar style. No, I'm not even going to jump on that one.
I think the Brendan Gallagher one is the one I'm kind of curious about.
Okay, the Gallagher one, yeah, the return you brought up. First off, I don't even think he would go for that return. I think Montreal would get a little bit more salaries retained, but that's what you gave. It would really hurt to see Brendan Gallagher go for that. But knowing that his money comes off the books if we're going through a rebuild, and he also, when he said in recently that when he signed on for that long term, it's to be part of a winning team. Well, if they're going through a rebuild, they're not going to be a winning team.
Actually, does he have a no movement clause?
Yes. So he would have to decide where he's going. Okay. So
because I was just a little bit of background, just quickly. I was going to throw a little extra piece to the question and say he would get a second and a sixth for like small returns was in my head, or he nets you a first, but you have to trade him to a team that really has no prayer of winning a Stanley Cup in his career. Like you send him to Arizona or something, right?
Oh, I didn't know we had the power to make those types of decisions.
I didn't know about his no movement clause. Technically, would you have done it to him? Is my question.
Damn straight, I would do it to him. Sorry, hockey's a business.
Ruthless.
Hockey's a business. I don't owe. I paid Brendan Gallagher his contract. He's gonna get paid. He's gonna get paid. That's what I owe him. I owe him money. That's all I owe him is money.
Ruthless.
Okay,
so the man Arizona, was a soldier, he bled for you.
Arizona is going to pay him his money that I got for him. So that's why. Nice packing, Brendan Gallagher. I like you. We'll give you a nice little video tribute on the scoreboard. Okay.
Oh, that tribute's gonna finish with the blood coming down his head, guaranteed.
Followed by a chorus of boos when he touches the puck because of his fan base.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, he could find his way out of Arizona. You know, that's on him after that. Get his agent to do some moves and play your way out of Arizona. Figure it out. That's your problem, not my problem.
Cutthroat.
We assumed that he would even lift his no movement clause to go to Arizona.
I like hypotheticals. Yeah, what ifs.
So, the Carey Price one. Well, actually, do you want to talk about the general manager one? Really?
No, not particularly, and even the analytics. Okay. For the Carey Price one, I think it's important to specify that I chose those two teams because they're obviously the ones that were talked about a little bit.
They are the best fit.
And they're the best fit. If you look which team do we try, or the Habs try to send him to get the best return back? Not so much for Carey, but like who can net the Habs the best return for him?
I think Colorado has more of the pieces that Montreal might be looking for to acquire. And I think with Colorado's certain pieces that have been rumored in the last year to be available, whether it's true or not, Montreal could benefit by having them. And it also works out in terms of cap. So when you look at it, I mean, I'm not going to mention all the players, but if we're talking Carey Price going there, Colorado's got certain puck-moving defensemen that Montreal can use. And I think that Colorado, because of the team that they have, they'd be okay to have Carey Price for another 4 more years after this year, provided the cap matches and all that stuff, because then they could literally say for the next at least 2 to 3 years, barring injury, they don't have to worry and depend on Darcy Kemper and Pavel Francouz as the guys who are going to try to win them the Stanley Cup. They got Carey Price, who we saw what he did in the playoffs, and Carey Price would also have an opportunity that he deserves to win, and at the same time, it's got a bit of a nostalgic feel to it, right? Like back then,
Patrick
Roy went there. He ended up playing with Sakic, Forsberg, and all that. And I loved Colorado back then as a kid growing up, and Forsberg was my favorite player as a kid growing up. So it would kind of have that, and I really do feel Carey Price, as much as I love him, and he'll always be a Hab to me, and he's probably, I believe he has most of the Habs records as a goalie. He deserves a chance to win.
I picked Colorado too, just because they have some nice pieces. They have some nice young pieces, and I think that he could win there. And honestly, if you want to further the storyline, Colorado has a prospect by the name of Nikolai Kovalenko, who is the son of Andrei Kovalenko, who was traded was in that Patrick Roy deal. So I mean, it could be a full circle type of deal.
Man, what type of fucking something? Oh wow,
that would be
crazy. You're mentioning him, and maybe he'd be a piece that'd be thrown in, but. I don't know. Maybe it's a different mentality. If I'm trading Carey Price there, I want to find a way where I'm getting Samuel Girard back.
Oh yeah, that's the starting.
I think that's probably a starter. Yeah,
for
without
sure.
question.
And the money will kind of work because he's paid $5 million a year for until 2026, 27, something like that. And Carey Price is 10.5. So I mean, I think they could make something work there in terms of the dollars. But when you're looking at Edmonton, as the other example you used, I mean, I think Brian Wild came up with a scenario, or I remember somebody wrote out an article or spoke about it, and you were looking at Dylan Holloway, Puljujarvi, and a first round pick for Carey Price, and I mean, thanks, and they're not. I'm not gonna just disregard that, but I'm not overly excited about it either.
I think the number one thing is Carey Price gets off the books, and I think that's what you're aiming for. You trade him to wherever you want, to be honest, at this point. And I like Carey Price, and he's great and all that. But if you're rebuilding, you need to get Carey Price. He's going to win you way too many games to rebuild. So,
but again, this is only if Carey Price actually comes out and says, "One, I don't want to be part of this rebuild," because he's got a no movement clause too, right? He has to be the one that says
he would be crazy to want to stick around through a rebuild, given his age and what's happening right here. But it is, on a final thought, just absolutely crazy to take a step back and realize that you're talking about unloading Price, Gallagher, anybody who's not bolted down when we were in the Stanley Cup Finals just a couple months ago. It really, like, when you think about it, it's just like, how the hell did we step into this twilight zone? And it just, anyways, I don't want to get too much further into that because
if I could just touch on that very, very briefly.
Go for it.
About maybe 3 weeks before that cup run, it was kind of like Bergevin's gone, Ducharme is terrible. The Habs are about to get eliminated in 5 by the Toronto Maple Leafs. So yes, there was like a 3-week fever dream, but you can't take your eyes off the fact that they finished. They would have finished 24th or whatever, and they finished 18th in the COVID year before. Yeah. They weren't a Stanley Cup team. Carey Price was a Stanley Cup goaltender, but they weren't a Stanley Cup. It was a 3-week fever dream. That's it.
The team got as far as they could that way. To bring them back again doesn't mean they're going to get there again. At that point, they are the team with the most. First off, they're the team that has the highest cap used, and at the same time, I think what is it? They got the most contracts, or that are at least 3 years and more. Most players signed to 3 years or more than anybody across the league. You're gonna have to find a way to solve that.
Well, that is for another time and for other people to figure out. For us, guys, thanks very much again, as always. Thank you, everybody who is listening, who's viewing. We really appreciate you. This was episode 9, I believe. Next one is 10. Maybe a little bit something special for episode 10. Who knows? We'll have to see how it goes. Please check out our social media to see the updates on when that's going to be coming out. And again, like, subscribe, do all the wonderful stuff that you guys have been doing. You have no idea how much it means to us. We really, truly appreciate it. So for Vito, Dave, and myself, thanks so much for listening. And this was Get Pucked. Get Pucked.